Listen, it's not like I'm actively holding back my feelings. I really do not identify with those "you gotta be a strong man, a manly man, no crying alpha male" type of guys. So I'm no stranger to crying. But my life has been good lately, I can't complain. Some tears here and there during the finale of a great movie or game, sure, but in general, I'm fine, thanks for asking. That was until this game came along. The waterfall of tears and emotions that cascaded out of me that fateful night in February put me in a state of mind I hadn't entered for many, many years. And here's why. But why now, you might ask? The game released 4 years ago. And while there are still some infos about a part 3 on the horizon and Red Dead Redemption re-released on the Switch, it has become quite quiet around Red Dead. A friend of mine, who my girlfriend and I watched the complete MCU with last year, recently mentioned that he still hasn't even properly started RDR-2 yet. And with the time of long nights and dark days around the corner, we proposed to him that instead of watching movies together, we could play RDR-2. Or better, he could play it and we would watch it, kind of like a movie. And he agreed. I did a similar thing with my girlfriend back when she first played it, and now she's totally on board with doing the same thing with him. Or rather, to him. Playing and finishing RDR-2 isn't a small feat, if I'm honest. I mean, sure, it's a game, just a game. And playing games is not hard in the grand scheme of things, but in the realm of games, RDR-2 is a challenge. Not because it's a particularly hard game with difficult mechanics or riddles or whatever, but because it's a slow burn. Many mechanics are divided into small sub-mechanics, and even if it's just a button to push or lever to pull, it's you. Setting up a camp, taking out some resources, making a cup of coffee, drinking the cup of coffee, putting away the cup of coffee, you get the idea. And while some people might think that that is tedious, too tedious, I disagree. It's what this game needs, a basic component without which it cannot function. Yes, it is tedious, but it gives you something very important. A connection to Arthur. Video game characters, protagonists, are usually mostly in your hands, that's how games work. But the more you have to manage for your character, the more your character is dependent on you. And I think Rockstar knows that, which is why they chose which parts of Arthur's life you have to micromanage and how you micromanage them very specifically. Your main focus is him and what makes him Arthur Morgan. On the lowest tier you have other people, gang members, the camp and so on. You can carry some hay here and buckets there, give some money to the camp, talk to people, but it's all quite straightforward, nothing too fancy. Because it's not that important what others think of him. Though I think that he thinks too badly about himself as it is, so I won't make it worse. Higher up are his tools, his horse and his guns. The customization for those, in contrast to the camp or whatever, is much broader. Saddles, braided manes, polishes for your guns, wood carvings, you make them yours, you make them his. He is still his very own person, of course, which brings me to the highest tier, Arthur himself. This is where it gets interesting. You can, except for tattoos or whatever, customize this man to hell and back. Comically long beard and hair, clean shaven with a tux, raccoon on his head, you name it. The game wants you to spend time on him, make him your Arthur. It's funny because that is actually a phrase we say all the time when we play RDR as a trio. Man, my Arthur would never wear that beard. When I see videos of the game where people dress him up in stupid outfits, I think to myself, I could never do this to my Arthur. So Rockstar's plan obviously works. In the end, this is not a role-playing game, of course. Aside from a few choices you can make, his path is devastatingly set. And in a way, I think that this is actually a big part of why this game broke me so deeply. Sometimes, a lot of times, it seems like Arthur hates himself. He hates what he does, blames himself for all the bad things in his life and many of the bad things happening to those around him. But in the end, Arthur is one thing in particular. He is scared. He's this tough, outlaw for life gunslinger, but deep inside he's plagued by the many worries and fears that follow all of us around all day. Am I doing the right thing? Is this who I want to be? And that's why he acts the way he does. He doesn't know any better. When we're scared and don't know what to do, we do what we know, what we are used to or conditioned to. And in Arthur's case, the things he's used to and conditioned to are also the things he doesn't really like doing. During his talks to Mary Beth, he opens up about his concerns, about what he really thinks of his life. And in that almost infamous scene with Sister Calderon at the train station, he finally admits it, with tears in his eyes. And fear is what makes this man human. He's not a hero, he's not a saint. He's Arthur Morgan, a murderer, a thief, an outlaw, but also a selfless man who helps those in need, even if he's grumpy about it. The whole questline involving the widowed Mrs. Downs is proof that he wants to do good to get redemption for his sins, but redemption isn't always given. So he decides on the next best thing, preparing his loved ones for what's to come, with time fleeting from his hands. And we, despite criminals and bad people usually not evoking much empathy in us, wish for Arthur to achieve his goals. And as I said before, we may control him trying that, but ultimately we are just as much in fate's hand as he is. And that is powerful, but also scary, because no matter what you do, he's dying. It's better the second time around, I think, because you know it's inevitable. But that first playthrough, man, I tried to save this guy. Every night in a hotel, every morning a warm meal from the saloon in Saint Denis. Warm clothes, frequent baths, always full course. Because I thought that there might still be a chance. I mean, I don't know the endings Rockstar put into this game. Guarma's warm air will probably help. Those days at sea, maybe? Sadie is such a great friend. John is. They will care for him. He will maybe not live to 80, but a few more years? A bit more time? His coughing got worse, his breathing got heavier, skin pale, eyes dark. Nothing was helping, and over time I realized that this is it, this is where it's going. So I started pondering, where did I go wrong? Could I have done something different? Was it a choice early on where I made the wrong decision? Was it my fault? But I also had to go on. He had to go on. What if Rockstar made it so that he could die before you were able to rescue whoever they planned on giving the chance to be rescued? I balanced his health and continuing with missions as well as I could, but after a while it struck me. I was in denial. This is not helping. And now I'm switching to anger. Grinding through those missions, antagonizing Micah, Dutch, and everyone else who stood in Arthur's path to save those he loves. Fuck the hotel, fuck the hot meals, I will walk over dozens of bodies to give a fighting chance to the others. I made Arthur's mission my mission. And when John and Arthur fought up that mountain after he said goodbye to his horse, I was in a complete tunnel. Dead Pinkerton after dead Pinkerton, fighting, carrying on. And when his mission got too heavy, Arthur gave part of his mission to John, gave part of himself to John. I continued upwards, finally facing off Micah, and God, it hurt. Every punch that hit Arthur's face made me hate this man like I haven't hated in a long time. The part of me that wished for things to maybe be different, the last glimmer of hope, was completely gone. We were alone on that mountain, and I was determined to end Micah and everything he stands for. But the game wouldn't let me. Micah got away, Dutch got away. We, Arthur and I, we were alone. He saved his friends, but couldn't save himself. And then I had to watch this man breathe his final breath into the morning sun. And I cried. I cried so much I couldn't see. I was sobbing, gasping for air. I've seen many people claim that it came close to the feeling of losing a real person, but I won't necessarily agree with that. But it shows you that people unite in this thought and that it really moved different kinds of people all over the world. Arthur's story moved them, and now he's just gone. And there's John, who everyone wanted to play instead of Arthur when the first RDR-2 trailers dropped. I had no horse in this race, I only recently started playing RDR-1. I know, shame on me, but If the comments on literally every video concerning RDR2 are anything to go by, most John fans must have thought to themselves, not like this. And with that, we are more or less in the prequel to Red Dead Redemption. And sure, we talk to our old friends about Arthur, we finish his quests and continue his journal, we can even visit his grave, but that's it. And in a time of last-minute Deus Ex Machinas, the hero saves the day stories, this bleak ending is something else. But it fits the tone of these games so well, because endings like these are real, natural. Blink and it's over. There's no hero to save the day, no magic to resurrect the dead. If I was a bigger YouTuber, it would probably be a meme by now for me to mention The Witcher 3. It's my favorite game, it's where my heart is. But still, I didn't feel this devastated, even the emotionally heaviest parts of The Witcher. Because in the end, it's a fantasy world with fantasy powers, people and monsters. And in a world where everything, or most things, are possible, less is at stake. But Red Dead is just this world, our world. I mean, sure, there's Deadeye and magically healing gunshot wounds with tonics and stuff, but overall it's quite anchored in realism for a video game. The people in this world are just that. People. Flawed individuals, lovable individuals, disgusting individuals. And to lose one of those characters that you hold near and dear to your heart in this kind of imaginative world and in this kind of way is the worst fictional loss there is. I might have made it sound like RDR2 is maybe too painful to play again, or that it scarred me forever. While that may be true, it was also an incredible experience. I would call this game, from a narrative perspective and a few more, the best game I have ever played. Not my favorite, but the best. Rockstar delivered what we love them for, an experience you will never forget. And I'm very, very grateful for that. Thanks for watching.